Latter-day Saints and traditional biblical Christians both talk about being children of God. And so if you're on the transition, on the journey from Mormonism, you're starting to find a new home in a Christian church, you'll hear people talking that way, but they probably mean something very different than what you're used to. So we're going to try to unpack that just a little bit. But even more importantly, I want you to understand when you get this biblical concept of being a child of God, how much it will revolutionize your relationship with Him. So let's start by kind of reviewing a little bit, just briefly, what do you guys understand the LDS view of being a child of God is all about?
That we're all literally brothers and sisters.
That we're literal offspring of God.
Okay. Somehow that we have like God's DNA or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Something like that, genetically or?
Yeah. I mean, basically, He creates us through a means in the pre-existence, and we come down into a body, and we're literally His children.
So everybody on the face of the earth is born as a child of God from that perspective. That's the idea. Okay. Well, now we understand the biblical idea of that is that you're not born a child of God, that you become a child of God at some point. So what have you guys learned about how that works from the Bible?
That when we accept Christ, we are adopted children. He accepts us into His family when we accept Him.
Okay, talk about that idea of adoption a little bit more. What are the implications of that? How does that work to say that we're adopted children? What does that really mean for us?
Well, for me, I mean, on a personal level, it shows how much He really does love us, that He's willing to adopt us into His family, as a child of His, and He doesn't have to, and we don't deserve it.
Right.
And so it stretches that idea of God's love even just that much bigger to me.
Okay, that's interesting, because if you're adopted, there's a time when you weren't in the family, and then you are in the family based on the action of those parents who chose you, they wanted you, they've invited you into this family. I love the way you put that, Zach. That's really good. And so, how does that happen? How do we like apply for adoption, or at what point do we become adopted? I think you start to touch on that a little bit. You want to elaborate some more?
When Christ calls out to us and we accept Him.
Okay, so there's that moment where we place our trust in Christ in response to His work on the cross.
Yeah.
And then that's when we become His children.
Yep.
Okay. So that's like the Gospel of John chapter 1, it says that to all who receive Him, to all who believe in His name, He gives the right to become children of God. So that's good. I'm glad you mentioned that. So what does it mean then? Okay, if I'm adopted into God's family, what does that look like day in and day out in my relationship with God? What is my relationship with God then really like?
I feel like it's been more personal. I mean, when I was raised in the LDS church, we're all brothers and sisters, and I didn't feel like there was a real close intimacy relationship there. But once I had that understanding that I'm actually have been adopted by Christ, it's made it a lot more personal. It's a lot easier to pray. It's a lot easier to live life with Christ in my heart, knowing that I've been adopted.
Okay.
And for me, it feels like my focus is on love. I do things because I love God, not because not because I fear hell or that I'm trying to earn my way into the celestial kingdom. I do it because I want to do it.
Yeah.
And it changes that relationship from an employer and employee to father-son.
Okay. So like an employer will obey, an employee will obey the employer.
Yes.
But the employer's not necessarily going to ask the employee to sit on his lap or, invite him into his home life or whatever, right?
Well, and the employer is not going to pay the employee unless there's work done to earn a wage.
Okay, exactly. Right. So there's a given, like you do this, you get this.
Yes.
It's a 1-to-1 ratio. But for children, then, how is that different?
Well, for children, it's, the adoption, especially talking about adopted children of God, He did this for us while we were yet sinners without us earning it. It's a free gift for us. And it all just comes back to God's love to me. And
okay.
It's about what He did for us, not what we can do for Him.
Right. His initiative, His love, His care, right?
Yeah.
And so as a child, you still obey your parent, but you also are invited into intimacy with your parent, and you share the life of your parent, and you have this wonderful bond. I mean, I know that there's families that don't work this way, but ideally, we understand that that's, there's something more there than just the obedience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a whole relationship outside of do this and I'll give you that.
Exactly. I love the way you put that. And so we really want you to understand what it means to be a child of God. And so that you understand that there is available to us through this faith experience and relationship with God, this wonderful intimacy with Him. And so our prayer for you is that you really come to experience that and know it and live it day in and day out on your journey toward Christ.